All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Trust the Tape. I am Jeff Cavanaugh, and I am alongside my dear friend, former Cowboy scout, former Super Bowl winning scout, and a sweet, sweet man, the great and powerful Bryan Broaddus.
Hey, Bri.
Hey, Bri.
Jeffrey, how we doing, sir?
We're kicking ass. I think today is actually a very good opportunity to use my favorite button, which I very rarely use, so nobody's tired of it, I'm sure. Today we have a question that I would like to ask you, which is, George Pickens as a Dallas Cowboy, is it the hot dog or is it the bun?
Now this is a hot dog bun.
I think it's a hot dog, too.
What do you think?
I would say George Pickens is probably the hot dog.
Yes, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
In the chat, we need to know, is it the hot dog or is it the bun?
Yeah.
I am excited for like 4, 7, 11 different reasons, but number one,
content number one. Is content
Yes.
number one?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is, Bryan.
Yeah.
We do this for a living.
Yeah.
And by God, it just got more fun.
Sure.
Oh,
Amari Cooper wasn't fun, right? Amari Cooper wasn't fun.
I mean, it was fun to be better at football. So like Amari Cooper was fine.
Yeah.
But like, even if they end up being not good at football,
Oh, yeah. There's
boy, I bet we got stuff to talk about.
possible wheels off stuff for sure.
And can I tell you this? I'm mad at Nick Harris right now
Why is that?
because I have decided, Nick Harris, Fort Worth Star-Telegram,
I work with Nick.
I have decided that I am the official coverer of reckless speculation about the seating chart in the Cowboys locker room. And I saw him talking about the seating chart, and I was like, no. Get out of my lane. That's my reckless speculation. That obviously now, because I didn't know there was another empty locker next to Dak.
There's an empty locker there, yeah.
But I went full Recky Specky on Micah sitting next to Dak. I was like, that's great because it means CeeDee Lamb last year graduated from needing to be next to Dad. And now Micah has to sit next to Dad to try to grow into his leadership role. And now Dak is probably going to have to be double Dad with Micah on one side and George Pickens on the other. And I don't know if he thinks that that's fun or if he's just like, why do I didn't sign up for all this, but that's my lane is Recky Specky about the seating chart. And I think Nick's stepping on my toes.
Yeah. I'm going to do this, Jeffrey. I love you like a brother. Nick lives in that locker room.
That's why mine's Recky Specky. His is reporting.
So you're actually like actual journalism then is what we're talking about here, right?
Yeah. He's
I usually side with like Pop and people like that live in that room.
Yeah.
Todd Archer, I usually side with those guys and gals that journey into that building and are there like 24/7. With their speculation, I think it's pretty accurate. I used to live in that building, and you can learn a lot living in that building. But I will say yours is reckless speculation, and his is probably good, honest journalism.
Okay, so after all we've been through, Bryan has announced himself on he's on Team Nick.
No, man. Hey, listen, it's there's a lot of things. This to me, it wasn't surprising because I think that we were all we've been jaded over the years of Jerry just saying things. When he came out and said significant, substantive kind of whatever word he used to describe what he's trying to do trade-wise. And we were hearing things through the draft process that they were really hunting a wide receiver. And then it got down to the post-draft, and I reached out to one of my really good ones, and I said, "Hey, you still hunting wide receivers?" And that one went dark, and I'm thinking,
it's going down.
And I was thinking, okay, I'm not getting anything back. They're working on something. And whether it was, the talk was Bateman with the Ravens, it was a second-round pick. Dallas didn't want to do that. Contract extension, all these things, And then, but they were also working on the Pickens deal. And there's a side of me, and I haven't talked to my gang of 7 guys about this, but I wonder if they're working on Aaron Rodgers and they're just trying to clear the deck, getting Aaron Rodgers in there. And maybe they were a little bit worried about the oil and water thing with these two. Maybe
that Aaron Rodgers couldn't handle George Pickens.
Maybe not, or maybe George Pickens couldn't handle Aaron Rodgers. You know,
that would have been a fun end to Aaron Rodgers' career. That it's a
Yeah.
WWE style fight in the locker room with George
Sure.
Pickens as Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers is 47 years old and
You're-
psilocybin mushrooms are falling out of his pocket every time he hits the ground. Which
I think
support microdosing those. What?
I think you're too young to remember Celebrity Deathmatch on like
No, MTV.
Yeah, okay. I think Celebrity Deathmatch would have been a better, more fitting ending.
Okay.
Could be. I think-
Bees in the super chat, best wide receiver trio in the NFC. See, now you're going to make me go look stuff up. But somebody was
let me see. The most, if you want to do it by the most expensive, Cincinnati has the most expensive.
like, Jamar T is wonderful. That's AFC, but
Then the Miami Dolphins have the next most expensive.
Waddle Hill's great. AJ Brown, Devontae Smith is great. The Cowboys have the wild.
And then the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles then would be number 3 on that list.
Did they ever get a third one? Like Jahan Dotson wasn't any good for them. And the Cowboys don't really have a third one, but I don't even care.
Yeah.
And I did want to, where's the guy? Where would Pickens stack in the draft? I just want to get this out there, Brian. I think, and we don't know how this is going to play out. We don't know if this is going to be a rental and it goes okay and he signs somewhere else, get a comp pick, and it's like, well, we got a year of him for not much.
By the way, the last comp pick you got that was a 4th round pick or better, was 2021.
Well, it's just what is George Pickens worth on the open market? If he's worth $25 million a year, it's a 3rd round pick, and it's just like that's what you need him to be worth. And
have we seen the $25 million player? Have we? And I'm asking. I'm not trying to be a jerk here. I'm asking. Have we seen a $25 million player end up being a 3rd? And I'm sure there's somebody that's going to something in the chat. I need to research that myself.
I think maybe he has been, and I think.
I mean, Dallas has had 3rd round picks before, but it was much earlier. And you know, if you could go all the way back, I think the best they've ever had, but I think this goes back to like 1994 with Larry Allen. That was a 2nd round pick, but the way it's done and operated and all that, those things have all been changed over the years. But I don't think you could go in this assuming you're immediately going to get a 3rd round pick.
I think it's possible.
Don't think
it's
you
a
can.
4, and I don't think there's any chance it goes lower than that because George Pickens is not going to turn himself into like a less than $15 million.
Well, if it ends poorly,
yeah.
And I'm just playing the what if game because there's a lot of folks out there that believe, well, hey, bro, they're going to play the compensatory game here, and I know you're a fan of the compensatory game. But I'm just saying, though, I went back and I said, okay, when's the last time Dallas got a 4th round pick or better? It was like 2021. So now you're going to what if George Pickens completely flames out like, you know, Antonio Brown or something like that? I mean, just completely, it just doesn't work.
That'd be bad.
Yeah, that would be bad. So
that'd be very bad.
If you want now. This is the thing. If you want the better compensatory pick, George Pickens is going to have to play at a level of George Pickens, and he's also got to show that George Pickens is not a problem.
Yeah,
you know so because somebody, you know, Dallas is the one team that can do this. Now, teams that have general managers that aren't going to get fired, you can make this trade, you know, because you're giving up a 3 and a 5. For the opportunity basically to see 1 year if you can make it work with George Pickens. See, if you're a general manager that's not, you know, you're kind of like, oh, geez, I'd lose my job if I made a trade like this and it didn't work. You know, like look what's going on with the Giants. I mean, the guy got 1 more year. He gave away Saquon Barkley, you know, and when ownership's like, oh, wait a minute now, what are we doing here? And he's, no, we'll be fine. Don't worry about it. You know, you don't often survive those things. So the fact that Jerry, Steven not going anywhere, this is a good trade for them because they don't, there's no pressure on them the only pressure is that Pickens plays well. That's the only pressure on them.
And I do think, now this is one man's opinion, but I will stare you dead in the eye and say it because the George Pickens thing, I think they just kind of had on the back burner in case they didn't get Tedero McMillan in the draft. They just traded for Tedero McMillan is what they did. Right. Like their plan was to pick Tedero McMillan. And if they couldn't, that's okay. We'll find a guy like that.
Yeah. They man, I'm struggling with my voice today. I'm sorry. they knew that there was a really good possibility. There was a really, really good possibility that McMillan wasn't going to be there. And they knew that. But they didn't have those other receivers close enough to make the decision or to get the choice. So, but what they've done is they've got a faster version of McMillan. McMillan, the better route runner, in my opinion, the better but a faster version when you start to talk about Pickens, and maybe even a more dynamic, slightly more dynamic ability to track the football and get the football and make incredible catches with the same type of body style.
So I was just going to say, I think that one man's opinion, this isn't controversial. I think that this is pretty clear. They got the better player. George Pickens is a better player.
Pickens or McMillan?
Yeah.
George Pickens
is a better player than Teteroa McMillan. He's better than every receiver in that draft, I believe.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with what you're saying at all. I think they got the same type of what, if you're talking about the receiver that can make the contorted catch, can, at all levels, I can say, I think there's questions, and I know, Jeff, you're probably watched Pickens. I don't think there's an exceptional route runner there. No. I see a really good kind of a playground, and I mean this in respect. This guy knows how to separate by being physical. Mm-hmm. He knows how to push. He knows how to shove. He knows how to drive and then come back. But he's not going to sit there and make you think of Amari Cooper running routes. It's not going to be this eloquent, oh boy, that was a pretty route. He is a go play football guy. Like I'm going to go and bully somebody and get open and you throw me the ball. And then I'm going to try and get more yards after that. That's how this dude plays. I admire that. I admire that about the guy.
Or I won't be open. And you just have to realize that that's okay. And
he'll take the ball off the top of your helmet. Sure will.
And I think that is the difference between him and a lot of the bigger receivers. Like we can just talk about Teteroa McMillan. I think that he is his frame and size, it plays.
Oh yeah.
But not in the way that Pickens uses it. Like Teteroa McMillan is not out here playing bully ball. George Pickens will bully ball you.
Yeah.
And I was actually kind of surprised to see these because I didn't picture Dak over the last couple of years as throwing a bunch of bombs. But I did see the numbers on it where Dak is in the top 2 in the league.
It's surprisingly well.
Yeah, both at how often he throws the go ball and the accuracy on the go ball, top 2 in the league. Yeah. And that's kind of been George Pickens. You want him to be able to do more than just these things, but over half of his routes are either run straight and then stop. And you're now going to get, it's just going to be you and him a lot of times. I don't think he had that opportunity in Pittsburgh very often, where now you are not what people are worried about. I think he's going to eat here. Yeah. I think that it's going to be so much fun. And as long as Dak is willing to play the game of if you had to compare him to somebody that Dak has played with, I think your options are somewhere between Michael Gallup and Dez. It's somewhere between there.
Michael Gallup on the ability to contort and to play in small space with feet,
right?
Ability to kind of okay, how do I tap? Yeah. And how do I, but the thing that Michael Gallup wishes he could extend for a ball like this guy.
Yeah. You got
Michael Gallup could have been like a George Pickens if he wasn't such a body catcher.
And if he was a lunatic, you have to be a little bit of a lunatic to always win the ball in the air by just being meaner and stronger. Yeah. The answer is probably, it's not even stronger. Yes, George Pickens is strong and probably stronger than a lot of DBs, but that's true of a lot of guys. There's something mental to the guys that it's just the my ball thing.
Oh yeah.
You got to have something rattling around that's different.
I was talking to some people in the league about this guy, and they're saying, listen, this guy is he really believes he can win on every play. And I sat down and watched him play, against the Denvers and Atlanta and the Jets and these teams that have good cornerback play. I mean, he's an up to the challenge guy. He is so you're going to put Patrick Surtain on me today. Okay, here I go. And he's a very fiery, emotional player. And I think that's where people like, well, oh, he's a problem. And I'm like, people were telling me like, no, this guy's not a problem. He just wants to win more than everybody else. And that comes out of him the way he plays. We saw it very much with Des Bryant. Des Bryant wasn't yelling at teammates or yelling at Dak or yelling. He was more encouraging. People in the Steelers say this guy in the locker room is not a problem. Like, he is not a problem. He's kind of a guy that he just is so competitive, and it comes off at times the wrong way. We'll see. I want to ask you something, Jeff, real quick. Okay. Because you know this. I think you know this. People have kind of offered that Dak doesn't function well with receivers that don't run great routes. What do you say?
I think you're going back to a really young Dak, because Jesse Holly and I talked about this yesterday a little bit on the DLS Cowboys podcast, going live at 11 o'clock today. Check it out. And I mean, I think maybe it's going to be based on whatever your opinion is already. But like, yeah, I think young Dak with Dez didn't have the success that Romo had with Dez.
Right.
But I also look at Dak, was it 2019 when it was Gallup had 1,100 yards? Michael Gallup was playing the role that George Pickens is about to play, and George Pickens is way better at it. And Dak threw a guy to 1,100 yards running down the field, running stop routes and running slant routes. And like the idea that he can't play that game, I think it's wrong.
Okay.
I think he's absolutely willing to play that game. Now, everybody in the world would rather their guy be open than not open. And so I think, you could point to when he played with Dez and be like, no, Dak wants to, and every quarterback wants you to be on. No. There's a timing to this. It's your third step, and then you are here so that I know I can put the ball there.
That's
Otherwise,
not George Pickens at all.
Because you're not where you're supposed to be.
Right.
So, that's not perfect. But I've seen a guy play the role that I think is going to be the George Pickens job, have a hell of a year that's not as good a player as George Pickens is.
Yeah.
So, maybe I'm sure there's something there. But there's something there, I think, for every quarterback where it's like, look, if you're not going to be where you're supposed to be, and if you're not doing things on time, and if you can't get open, I don't like this, and I can't trust you in a lot of scenarios. But where I can trust you is I see you and him with your backs to me. I'll throw that thing up there.
Yeah, he will be a legitimate red zone weapon as well. You can watch him go and get the football and stuff like that. So I'm okay. Like I say, I think the best point you made about that whole thing was young Dak. I think Dak through the years, I think he's gotten better with that. We'll see. But I know there's all these people that like, hey, Broaddus, Dak has trouble throwing the ball to guys that are poor route runners. This guy, I'm not going to say poor. I'm just going to say it's not as uniformed, crisp, exact.
He's kind of a wild ass route runner.
He is a real wild ass route runner, and you could see how it kind of puts defensive backs on edge. Yeah, because they're really not sure what this guy is going to do.
Because you're flanking 6 different ways.
They can't read the route. Usually defensive backs are taught to look for landmarks and keys and stuff like that. With this guy, it's just kind of all over the place. So. I'm glad they did it. And you know what? I'm not going to be the guy that if it doesn't work, say, well, damn, it was a 3rd round pick. I wish we had the 3rd round pick and all that. I'm not going to be that guy because I've asked them to do something. I've asked them to go get legitimate receiver. I've asked them to play a game where, hey, go use your resources to get a big time player. They went and got a big time player. If it doesn't work, so be it. It didn't work. There's hundreds of deals across all professional sports that don't always work. So we'll see. But I'm not going to be that guy. And oh damn, you gave up. In the draft. You gave up a 3 and a 5, and it's part of doing business. Part of trying to make your team better.
I would much rather they do it this way.
Yeah,
the ones that I will talk about them for when a draft is going on, when I need a player. Is when you trade
the Mingo one, or the quarterback,
Trey Lance.
Yes,
when you're firing off mid-round picks for guys who are never going to help your football team, and it's just based on once upon a time we thought he might be okay. I would much rather, like Stephon Gilmore, Brandon Cooks, like they've seen what you can trade for what. That I can get a proven solid commodity on the back end of a career for a 5th-round pick. I think the Eagles traded a 3 for Jahan Dotson. I think there's other picks, whatever. But we saw the biggest or one of the biggest things that could hold this team back. And adding just a wide receiver to the room does nothing, because I don't know if he's going to beat out Jalen Tolbert and whoever else.
Yeah.
The way to address receiver was this:
swing big,
and swing for a guy that can play, that is a really good player, that is going to be in the best scenario he's ever been in, playing with the best quarterback he's played with an actual top 5 wide receiver in the league on the same offense. Give yourself a chance. I won't kill him for this one. I kill him for giving away picks that would be good for 4 years of a running back for a 3rd-string quarterback or a backup wide receiver.
No question.
I won't kill him for this one. Now, it could end poorly. And I wanted to ask you this because
it very well could.
You worked for multiple teams. Let me knock out the super chats real quick first. Daniel's in the super chat. If my last name were Jones, it's Ferguson that's walking, not Bland. It's a big year for Jake Ferguson.
Yeah.
It is a big year. Not having a GM is exactly why this trade is terrible. The only thing that makes this palatable is the picks are not in the same year. Giving up this much for someone else's headache is just dumb. I don't want to write that off, because I am also mostly optimistic. I'm excited to watch George Pickens on this football team.
Sure.
Every time that Mike Tomlin has said, yes, go ahead and get rid of my mercurial wide receiver, he's been right every time. So there's a reason Pittsburgh doesn't want him. I think the reason you have a chance is because you have a
I was talking to Pittsburgh people that were not saying this is a terrible kid. Now, if
they can say that, they traded him.
No. The somebody in the front office above traded,
right?
But they're trying to give me an idea about the player. Listen, this guy's not a domestic violence guy, or this is not one of those guys. This is a guy that's super competitive, and maybe he doesn't handle that the right way at sometimes.
I think
the kind of that's I just was looking for I could have somebody could call me and I got Broaddus. You guys just got worked. You guys got worked. I didn't get any of those calls. I didn't get any of those worked calls.
No, I think what George Pickens is this is reckless and irresponsible. But once you've been to enough therapy, you just feel like you can identify everything and everybody, and it is reckless and irresponsible. Like what George Pickens says, I think is pretty clear. Like when you say like this guy's a bad teammate, or you see guys who are demonstrative on the field, some people will jump to big old conclusions where now he's a bad person and now he is a insert crime here. No, I think George Pickens is not super unique in that what he is not emotionally mature. Yeah. George Pickens is like Luka has the same thing. It's just how does it manifest in different people, right? And Luka Doncic, the way that his emotional immaturity manifests on a basketball court is every time something doesn't go his way, he cries, he bitches, and he gets teed up. He yells at the refs and he cries. With George Pickens and some other players, it manifests, I think, in the moment as anger. Like that's why he can be a 15-yard penalty guy or take a route off guy. I think if something isn't perfect for him, it's just a matter of where's your emotional maturity and what can you do about it? And you have to do something about it, or those things will stay. Now off the field, things that you have time to prepare for could be different, but in the moment, your emotional responses to things, that's where he is at the moment. Is his emotional maturity is low, and his reaction to it in the moment is anger. And that's not great unless your anger leads you to throwing a dude 3 yards off of you and then catching a touchdown. That would be fine. Spencer Hall, how do y'all see the current cornerbacks on the roster guarding the depth chart? Who starts at slot? Also, how do you feel about the depth of the position? Not great. And I don't know.
Worried more about left tackle. The corner's right in there.
Yeah, and they're not. And left tackle is the one. I get it. It's his second year, but that's why I like this trade so much. They said we already traded for Mingo, but we're not going to sell you that shit. We're going to actually fix it.
But I will say this: I hope the left tackle spot doesn't hold them hostage.
That would be terrible.
I hope that they've got and I think I still have some questions about the running back with the exception of Blue. I'm willing to give Maffa and Williams. Sanders could prove me way wrong. But the running back, I think left tackle is a concern for me, and I think the cornerback spot. I think Ravel is going to be. I think he's going to be ready to go. But how do they navigate all that with with the others? We'll see. Did it help Diggs being called out by the general manager with his? We'll see, because it got close last year at this time to training camp, and he wasn't where he needed to be. Hopefully that's changed for him.
Dirk's in the super chat. Do you guys think George Pickens makes Tolbert and Mingo or any of the other bottom of the chart guys? He makes. And best guess who wins the wide receiver 3 job? Does Turpin become a full-time player? I think Turpin exists in his own bubble.
Mm-hmm.
I think wide receiver 3 is basically Jonathan Mingo versus Jalen Tolbert.
Yep.
And that's your depth chart at wide receiver.
Well, let me tell you, Jeff, see if you agree with me on this. I think that this trade does make those 2 better in this regard. Neither one of them has to be wide receiver 2.
Yeah.
The pressure of maybe being that maybe was going to be too much. Hopefully that Mingo and Tolbert, but we've been talking about Tolbert now for 3 years.
Yeah. This offense could be really, really good if you get decent left tackle play, because I'm picturing.
Oh yeah, that's my concern myself.
How well everything fits together. I wish they had a better runner. I wish they had waited 2 days to realize that Rico Dowdle could be gotten for very similar to Javonte Williams' price.
Yeah.
And I hope to be wrong on Javonte Williams and see him have an incredible bounce back.
I think I'm going to be. I think I'm more wrong. Williams, I think I'm okay with. Sanders is the one that I'm kind of putting out there that I think is.
I don't think Sanders is going to make the team. Like
I'm the same way.
Yeah. But Javonte Williams, like, he's the one that I think about more because I think he's probably the primary running back.
Yeah.
And I don't love that.
Yeah.
But I hope I'm wrong about it.
Yeah.
But I just look at it as like CeeDee Lamb is going to be the focal point. Your number 2 wide receiver is ideal for a guy who's going to end up with one-on-one coverage. And then you add in Turpin gadgeting around and Jaden Blue gadgeting around, and like how much space you can create for those guys because of how worried you are about the other guys. This could be awesome if you can block. If your left tackle doesn't, derail at all.
There's people that believe that maybe Schottenheimer said it, but I don't think they really want to do it. You can move that left guard to left tackle and then figure out things. Let me ask you this, Jeff. And we like Booker a lot. Would have made more sense then to draft a left tackle and then trying to dress the right guard with the Hoffman and those types. I don't, like I say you drafted in my case Simmons, the Ohio State tackle that went to Kansas City. Say you drafted him, maybe, and they liked him, but say you drafted somebody like that. Would you feel better? But that is admitting that Guyton was that, maybe you have to put Guyton in another spot. Maybe he competes at right tackle, but overall for the offense would have been better to draft a tackle and then try and work around the guard. I think
if you promise me the tackle is going to play as well as I think Booker's going to play at guard,
that's
sure.
I think the thing with Booker at guard, it might override a tackle. You might be so good now with BB and Smith and Booker inside now. I mean, you might be better than, but I just hope the left tackle spot doesn't hold them hostage.
I
hope somebody steps up out of that group. Yeah.
If those middle 3 are really, really good.
Yeah.
It just, no. We're in George Pickens land right now, and I'm optimistic about it. We're doing optimistic things. No, it would be. I'm just saying,
what could hinder George Pickens having success?
Yeah.
Them not being able to block it. If all of a sudden they can't run the football.
Yeah.
If they can't run the football and it turns into Dak having to drop back, 30, 35, 40 times a game, can you survive if your left tackle is not adequate?
Right. And I'm thinking of it from the perspective of if those interior 3 are really, really, really good, I think it's just going to make me wish you had somebody who could do more with it than the guy who's going to get the most carries on this team. But we'll see.
I'm the same way. Yeah.
I
like Blue. I like Blue a lot. I like Blue.
Yeah, just give the ball to Blue. Is Jedrick Wills healthy? He would be the perfect vet to add to push Guyton. I don't have Jedrick Wills. How is he at the moment in my notes at the Thursday?
I haven't asked about that one. I will.
What's the 1-year deal cost for Nick Chubb this summer if his foot injury looks like it's healed and can play this season? Probably pretty cheap, but it sounds like the Cowboys aren't interested at all.
I don't think so. Listening to Jane Slater talk about it, I think she's got it wired pretty good.
All right, well, we're going to win all the games. I was just going to tell everybody, like, the most important thing I wanted to get into with you, Brian, but we're out of time, so I'm just going to tell you what I wanted to get into, and then we're not going to get into it, is, like, what is the most important thing for a player like Pickens to keep that on the rails? And I think the answer is simply be good. Like, people aren't malcontents when you're kicking ass.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the Cowboys need to be good, and I think that this will be a lot of fun. And if they're not, then keep your eyes peeled.
I'm fascinated to see how Junior Adams, the new wide receivers coach, who has a college background, who's worked at programs like Washington Huskies and Oregon, where they've had some receivers that have had big time ego type guys. I'm interested to see how, just right off the jump, how he handles his room with these guys. And I think Pickens will, like we've talked about, Pickens wants to win. That's number one. And, and he wants to be, if they're not winning and he believes that he could beat Patrick Surtain every single time and you're not getting him the ball, then that's where you're going to have the problems. But you're right. Winning is the best deodorant ever. It hides all the stink, so.
Facts.
Hey, Brian.
All right, Brian. I think today we successfully answered the question, is it the hot dog or is it the bun?
Now, this is a hot dog bun.
I think it's a hot dog, too.
And I hope that you have a wonderful day. And everybody, make sure you're keeping your eyes out for what Bryan Broaddus is up to, because he's always up to something. He's always
I got a big bag of nothing going on right now. But no, it was fun. Bobby Belt and I were working on that thing. He late into the night, and then at 5 a.m, we were having conversations about the Pickens trade. Actually, I went on record. I had to alert Adam Schefter what was going on. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that to pat myself on the back, but I told Schefter, I go, hey, you need to wake up. There's about to be a trade going down the pike.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Schefter's awesome. A good dude. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Brian. Have yourself the best day ever, or else.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You do the same.
All right, everybody. Appreciate you stopping by for Trusted Tape. Remember, you have no idea what anybody's going through.